and welcome to another of the ongoing Rallyware webinar series. So thank you all for joining us today. We've got a big crowd today. Must be a slow day across the direct selling ecosystem out there, but we're very excited and happy to have you. So today, I'm going to be with my partner in crime, Dan O'Mara. Dan is our Vice President of Sales here at Rallyware. My name is Rich Schubkegel, and we're going to, just to give you a little bit about logistics for today, we're going to try something a little bit different, more of an open dialogue than just what we're typically used to in a webinar series, right? With one of us presenting, the other presenting, and that type of thing. But the other thing that we would like to try to do today is, as we are going through these topics, as we are having discussions around these different points, we would love for you to enter your questions, comments within the Q&A. And we're going to try to, if we can simultask, we're going to try to take those questions as we go. Instead of, yes, we will address questions at the very end of the presentation, but we're going to try to do that sort of in the flow of the conversation today. And we're doing that because, as I said, it's going to be more of a dialogue, a conversation between Dan and Rich, instead of your normal stiff, stilted presentation as you sometimes get in a webinar series. Just to let you know, this conversation today is being recorded. We will share that recording with each and every one of you. And some of the PowerPoint slides we won't be spending much time on today, but if you would like a copy of those, I will be more than happy to share those with you. You can reach out to me afterwards at Rich, R-I-C-H, at rallyware.com, and we'd be happy to follow up with that. So, all right. Dan, you with me over there, sir?
I am. I'm very excited about this conversation. As we know, digital transformation can be a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I'm excited for what we're going to talk about today.
All right. And so that's what we're going to start with today, right? It's just that we want to sort of set the stage. You see this concept or this terminology, digital transformation, all over the place. Everybody defines it a little bit differently too. And we really think that we're sort of in that second wave, if you will, of digital transformation. But here in italics, you're going to see this is the definition that we're going to be speaking to today, right? So we define digital transformation as that ongoing process using technology, people, and process in pursuit of new business models and revenue streams. So those are the three. Sometimes you see three things mentioned, sometimes four things mentioned in the definition. We're going to stick with technology, people, and process, and you're going to see that our focus is going to be, or our emphasis, I should say, is going to be on the aspect of technology in this conversation today. So as we've looked over the past year, and maybe even a little more than the past year, we've tried to sort of distill some of the things that we've really seen out there affecting business overall, but specifically the direct selling landscape, right? Where we have that unique business model. So these are really the things that we have or are going to emphasize today. The whole need to attract distributors within those younger demographics, right? So that today, sometimes distributors see direct selling as what their mom did, what their dad did, yesterday's way to come to market. So that's one of the things that direct selling that we've seen in many companies, whether they be our clients, whether they be our prospects, that they are attempting to overcome. Then the other thing is how do we compete with the other gig economy players, right? And you notice that we emphasize that word other because Dan, I think you'll agree with me, we see ourselves as one of those gig opportunities that people can evaluate and look at.
Yeah, and I think that, Rich, you have an excellent point, and I'm going to try to jump in on you whenever I can. So if I cut you off, I apologize.
That could be tough, you know.
All right. So one of the things that, again, as we're seeing this attract younger, compete with other gig, this I really think is where we're going to see that a lot of this digital transformation is going to play critical roles in. And as we were coming up with the kind of the talking points and the topics for this conversation today, this was one that we heavily debated on, not whether or not it should be in there, but like, should this be in of itself its own conversation? Because it is a very critical one. So I think we're going to spend some time talking a lot about that today. But, also, kind of jumping into the next one. Go ahead, Rich. Right ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, you're more than welcome to flow into that. But, COVID-19, we've been living with it across the globe, right? Peaks and valleys of how this has affected us in many, many different ways. And as we think about what is really unique to the direct selling channel, right? It is that appeal of face-to-face. So that is, and whether that's face-to-face with a customer, whether that's face-to-face with my team, whether that's face-to-face with corporate, right, at national conference and opportunity events and that kind of thing. So what has evolved, as as we talked about, to meet some of these challenges? Absolutely. And then the number one thing we see as that second point is you see this all over businesses, inside of direct selling, outside of direct selling. Those issues with supply chain. And how are we going to deal with that? How do they affect the business? How can our distributors handle that and still make their businesses effective with that end consumer? Dan and I just came back from the DSA conference, where one of the presentations there was by a CEO who regularly meets with other CEOs across the world. And one of their topics with White House representation was, how do we handle this whole supply chain crisis that, we feel we're in across the globe today? And that person from the White House said that they don't see this being rectified anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to that point, Rich, is that, when we start dealing with these supply chains, then of course it leads into the customer experience, the buyer journey. What is a consultant or distributor going to do to help ensure that we do have that, still maintain that solid shopping experience? And again, this is where ultimately, if maybe we want to go to the next slide there, Rich, is that we're really facing this concept really that the technology to support this digital transformation is here. There's a lot of great vendors out there. There's so much great technology out there that really this technology, this digital transformation is here. And the critical thing is really, it's time for us to embrace that mindset of digital transformation, that which I love to call it data. And so again, that mindset of digital transformation, there's probably 1,000 things we can do inside of our companies today. But, do we take it step by step? But do we have the mindset that we need to set forth?
Well, and I would agree. I would say you have to remember it is a mindset. Remember, it is a continuous, ongoing process. So we've always got to be looking at the changing landscape and seeing what we can apply from technology, people, and process to get toward that transformation that we're discussing today. All right. So we're going to start off quoting some facts, giving you some information. You can go out there all the time and find that, but here are what we have found to be benefits of digital transformation to the business, right? And this is the only slide where we're going to discuss that about, increases in operational efficiency, faster you know, marketing, increasing customer satisfaction, that kind of thing. So these are, as you are transforming digitally, some of the KPIs and metrics that can be quantified around improvements for the business itself from a corporate perspective. So as we then transition, because the focus of this conversation today is going to be, what are the benefits of digital transformation to the sales force out there, to the distributor out there, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
Dan, I'll let
Rich,
you start with that.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm going to jump. Thanks, man. And again, I really appreciate the questions that are coming in. One of them, I think, sets up this conversation perfectly. So right off the top, it says, at what point of a direct selling company's life cycle do you think one needs to start diving into digital transformation? And quite frankly, I think it's at pretty much at any point. You know, I don't think you need to really, you know, do you set up if it's a startup, right? Are we saying, okay, well, we're going to worry about digital transformation later? I think the earlier that you can start to map those things out, the better your vendors, your technology partners can work together to really help deliver a solid solution that works well with you. And again, I think that's one of those things that we're going to kind of see throughout this conversation, is that we are going to have vendors that have to work together. And the more that we can allow vendors to kind of partner, provide insights back and forth, really, you know, I think that's going to be one of the most critical things that we're going to see. So at what point in the direct selling company's life cycle? I think it's really at any, at various stages. Of course, you have different thought processes and different thought processes. You know, whether you're starting up and you're saying, hey, look, you know, I just want to get the roadmap out there, or whether you've been established, you have a lot of legacy technology. Maybe you're just going to start bringing some of these small things together bit by bit. So great question. And please keep them coming. So benefits to the field. You know, when we start talking about bringing on a younger audience, younger consultant distributor, whether we're looking at competing against, you know, other gig economy platforms, that ability to incorporate digital into the experience of that individual to make their job easier, I think this is going to be one of the most critical aspects of advantage of that business. So, you know, like we all know it's super easy to earn money on Uber or Lyft, or maybe rent out an extra room or a vacation house or whatever that is. You know, those processes are so easy because it takes the guesswork and the thought process, the quote unquote cognitive load to actually do that business. So I think once we start bringing together this digital transformation thought process, we'll start to see some competitive advantage in regards to the processes that we can put in place to make that job of selling a product or introducing something to somebody a little bit easier and make that transition. So
I'm going to take us back to that first slide. And at least 3 of those 4 bullet points, I think, you know, this addresses where you get a competitive advantage, right? So one is who you can attract, that younger demographic. The other is competition over those other gig opportunities. But then the bigger thing is, to me, whether it's a direct selling company or whether it's a direct selling distributor, I think they're 2 of the biggest obstacles they face. One, attracting customers, right? We've heard this mantra, customer acquisition. But then not only attracting those customers, it's shaping that whole shopping experience around that consumer's convenience, right? How do we make it easy? So that's the word I was looking for, convenience. How do we not only attract that customer, but make it as easy for them as possible to purchase from us, to do business with us, to whatever it might be. All right, let's talk a little bit about the benefit to the field, the benefit to the sales force in terms of culture and engagement. So maybe I'll start this one off.
Yeah, please.
You think about that. Here we've got collaboration is a big part of it, as distributors connect with each other, as they connect with customers. What tools can we give them? And I think we've all been forced to provide with them during these stay-at-home times, those tools that will allow them to touch people, allow them to interact with people. And I think one of the points here, and maybe something we didn't call out, when you are remote like this, I think motivations, we know motivation is a key in direct selling to start with. That sometimes is hard to provide and hard to focus upon when we're separated during these times, right? We all want to be recognized. We all want to be awarded, rewarded for whatever accomplishments I make. How do we do that on a large scale, even when we're separated like that?
A very good point, Rich. And I'm glad you did call that out. And it was something that we didn't talk about. And and I think that that's a critical thing, because again, I want to kind of go back to this whole digital transformation thought process in regards to how do we, compete, how do we gain that younger audience, is the fact that, just the very nature of our industry versus say a tech-driven gig opportunity. We're driven around that engagement, that community structure, the ability for me to connect with other like-minded people throughout that process. So again, I think from my standpoint, and Rich, I think you would agree to this too, is that ability for us to provide that environment where people can connect, maybe even get recognized and rewarded, but primarily connect around those and with those people that help, encourage and drive and make someone feel great inside. So I think that's a great one.
Yep. Even though I'm isolated at home, making me feel a part of something bigger. I think that's a big thing. So, all right, here's your wheelhouse, Mr. Romero. A well-trained and knowledgeable sales force.
Yeah, this is, you're right. I mean, this is, if there's one thing that we overall at Rallyware love to talk about, is this mindset of a knowledgeable sales force. And it's funny, is because we even bring it internally to the Rallyware team. And this is a little off topic, but I think it's kind of to that point, is that, to Rallyware, we have this mantra of no empty seats. We're not a big fan of just general pitch guys and things like that. People need to completely understand the industry, completely understand Rallyware technology, things along those lines. But I think it's really important, especially when we start to think about, driving a knowledgeable sales force, is that sales force, and not just knowledgeable about, maybe we've got, 50, 100, 200, 300 different SKUs, but maybe even more knowledgeable on, like, what am I going to do today? Right? Like that concept.
That right info to the right person at the right time. So my phone is going to tell me what to do to be successful.
Yeah. And again, driving that knowledgeable, well-trained sales force is really that. We know, someone might wake up in the morning at the best of intentions, and then, all of a sudden they're getting pulled into a thousand different directions. By the end of the day, they're like, oh, what am I supposed to do today? And by utilizing digital technology and again, using data, how are we going to really help them drive those specific activities throughout that process? So,
you know what? I forgot until you just mentioned it, by saying they get pulled in so many different directions. It's that concept you and I always talk about, right? That time scraping. What can they do in those in-between moments of the day to be successful in their business? I'm waiting for Johnny at soccer practice. I'm sitting waiting for my doctor's appointment. What can I do to keep my business moving forward? Yep, you're right. All right. And the last benefit that we identify. Go ahead.
I'm going to jump in. We've got some some good questions that
Oh,
are
good.
coming in
Okay,
over
let's
here.
do that.
So one here I really like. There's one here about ROI, and I'll get to that. We'll get to that. Well, we're seeing an urgent need to get digitally transformed to keep up with a modern distributor and a modern consumer. Where do we see in terms of tools and procedures, and who usually drives this transformation on a corporate level? That is a fantastic question.
In a couple of different aspects of it too.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, with a modern distributor, right? What is a modern distributor? And again, I think a lot of these things are evolving, right? Like where was it last year, and where is it today?
But that's why we said earlier, you've got to embrace this as a mindset, right?
Exactly.
Because it's going to continue to change.
Yeah. So where do you see in terms of tools and procedures, and who usually drives the transformation at corporate level? So, you know, Rich, I'll start with maybe the tool side of things, and then if you want to jump into the transformation, who drives that on the corporate side. So on the tool side, I think you've got really kind of that two big things. So one out of the gate is, or two big areas, right? The customer experience. What does that buying experience look like? And then on the consultant side, what does that look like? So I'll start with the consultant, and then we'll go to the buyer side. So on the consultant side, I think it's ease of direction or ease to acquisition, whether that's customer acquisition or, you know, a new enrollment or whatever that may be, but simplifying that process. Meaning if we know from you know, our website data, our you know, social media data, you know, where are we getting the number of our the highest number of our consumer purchases from? Are we getting them where there's Facebook is the source, or is it organic? What does that look like? And then let's try to build those tools to align with that. So an example would be like, maybe I'm going to provide digital content for someone to reach a specific audience on Facebook, seeing that maybe that's our number one source for traffic to our website. But again, this is where we start to take into that mindset is, let's see what's already happening out there, and can we make that process a little bit better? On the buyer side, I mean, Amazon, I think, drives that for us. So, you know, so on the buyer side, I think that they set that bar, and we have to do our best to kind of hit that bar. So I said on kind of the tool side, I think customer acquisition, consultant training, those two should be kind of the most critical things right out of the gate. And then the buyer side, as we know, the best that we can do to get as close to Amazon as possible. Rich, what would you say about where it should start?
That's a great question. So I would say it should start. And here I was trying to think about, you know, if you're a company that's large enough, yes, maybe you can identify an individual or a department that is focused upon that, right? But I really see it as identifying someone who understands the business, right? From the beginning of the life cycle of a new distributor to the end consumer, to the stranded customer, to all of that. If they've got a sense of the business, they're going to be able to work with each and every one of those individual departments where those touch points occur at. You know, it could be somebody in IT, it could be somebody in sales, it could be somebody in field services, it could be, I don't know if a company actually has the luxury of being able to identify, because it's not going to be somebody who's just trying to introduce technology for technology's sake. It's going to be someone who understands the business. They can always figure out what technology is available for out there to drive that business. I know I took I sidestepped that question, but I really believe it's more about conceptual rather than some type of title out there. So.
Yeah, I am going to add to that just a little bit, is that I think it also has to be somebody that can impact the focal point or the driving point of the organization. We have seen this actually with our own customers where maybe marketing and sales were not 100% aligned, and then incentives and recognition was not aligned with what sales was like. So again, that's the great thing about when you implement this mindset of digital transformation, there's enough data out there that we can bring all of the activities inside of the organization aligned to one single focal point. And I think that's, you need to make sure that you have someone on board that can actually impact that.
So this final benefit, right, the simplification there, and you can see what we're saying about legacy systems, go to modern systems, data across departments so that it's not siloed. But, you know, we're talking about making it easy for somebody to come in that younger generation, making us one of the best gig opportunities out there. This is a concept, you know, that I see argued with a lot. So today, if I wanted to make 150 bucks, I could start driving for Uber. And once I've made that 150 bucks, quit driving for Uber. And if I didn't come back around for another 4 to 6 months, it would be very easy to pick up right where I left off and continue to do that. We, from a direct selling mindset, need to realize that we don't always make it that easy. If I don't do something over the last 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, now I have to, you know, sign up, get a new distributor number, buy a new kit, whatever. So think about that in every decision we make across the organization about how can we make it easy for somebody to dip in, to start, to begin with, but then to dip in and dip out to get their pay instantly as soon as I do something and make that sale, as soon as I, so here again, everything you do, you have to embrace that mindset.
And I'm going to jump in here because I'm going to take a different stab at it. The improved process to simplify, I think we can take into consideration our logistics, shipping logistics issues at the moment. The value of digital transformation is, again, that data and having technology systems talk to each other. For example, my inventory management system. You know, do I have specific products that are sitting on the shelf that I could sell and ship and still provide a great consumer experience for? Well, do we have a way of notifying our field of that, educating our field on those products, inspiring them to maybe sell those products versus a product that may have a 6-week lead time right now? So again, I think this is where we can improve processes to really kind of simplify that overall approach.
So then, Dan, also talk to me about, I know a lot of our clients, a lot of the prospects that we're talking today are all looking for that central hub, central portal, that one single distributor experience where they can get whatever information they need given to them without going anywhere else.
Yeah, that's, again, I think it's something that all of our customers and all of the direct selling industry as a whole, businesses really need to challenge their vendors on. Challenge them to say, hey, look, I need you to come together. I need this back office to talk to this tool, and I need this tool to talk to that tool, and all of them need to come together and talk to, you know, this specific platform. And again, I really think that this is where the company should really, again, start to drive this and start to push and really demand this from the vendors. And I know that we're seeing it across quite a few of our customers. And this kind of ties into another question that came up. So I'm going to dive into that before we dive into the next set of slides here. Is just curious, have you seen COVID impacting direct sales operations, specifically the way companies onboard, engage, and train their consultants? So absolutely. COVID led to a tremendous new experiences. We've had customers who had never ran out of stock before, run out of stock, and how do they communicate to the field? How do they drive that? But one of the big things that we really saw was centralized processes for onboarding. One of the things that was fascinating for us was the ability to connect with a company and then watch them work with their top leaders to actually put together a standard onboarding procedure for new consultants that those leaders could agree upon, get behind, and promote to the field. I think that's been one of the greatest things that we've seen. That has really allowed for some of those organizations, again, this is global, right? Maybe in the States, we're seeing, mandates being lifted and people are, spending time together, all that kind of stuff. Like we were just DSA last week. But globally, this is really kind of still a very strong thing, is they're saying, hey, look, how do we connect if, we can't be together? So again, standard onboarding process, we've seen this tremendous uptake in that over the last little bit.
So on that COVID-19 question, I just jumped ahead 2 slides. We'll go back 1. Because exactly what Dan just said, right? I would tell you maybe in North America and in Europe, that whole face-to-face wasn't as hard to take as a lot of our Latin American and our Asian Pacific clients, where they were more used to picking up that product in person, talking to those people, bringing people around to a single location for opportunity events, that type of thing. So, the COVID effect on corporate, I would tell you, probably is maybe this middle bullet point, right? How we deliver product to customers. And I think a slide later on will tell you how Yanbal went from that face-to-face delivery to using Snapchat and some other technology. But then also the whole thing about the product itself, right? COVID gave a number of companies an opportunity to come out with new products that actually addressed the epidemic too. So I just wanted to jump ahead and maybe talk about what we've seen from COVID effects. So I'm going to jump back 1. We're going to go from the benefits of digital transformation now and jump into why digital transformation and why specifically now. Dan, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, thanks, Rich. So, as we see here, today's new generation of distributors feed off of the experiences and benefits that we provide. This is, it's not really new, right? And it's not really just this generation. It's just that when it's something that we really get to highlight now, because we never really had a lot of these gig opportunities that popped up. So I think one of the things is that this concept of digital transformation allows us to do a better job of how do we drive better incentive programs, how do we recognize people better, and things that they would not get in a different sort of gig opportunity. Also at the same time, we also know, which has been very apparent, and it's very apparent in direct sales in general, is that people are willing to work hard. Now, have they always known exactly what to do? Maybe not always. They're like left to connect with their leader. Maybe that leader's active, maybe they're not active, maybe the leader knows exactly what to do, maybe they don't. And now with the ability that technology can bring to the table, we can really provide those unique pathways, whether that's based on personal goal, based on company goals, based on this month's incentive program, whatever that may be. But we have these abilities now to really kind of help guide people throughout that process. And again, another opportunity for vendors to work together on that front.
All right, so I'm going to jump back to that COVID slide. We talked a little bit about the product and what that has been seen like, not only from delivery and for corporate, but we talked about the reduced face-to-face, whether it's being with the consumer, whether it's being with the team. The one thing we didn't touch on earlier, think about that concept of remote recruitment, right? So that is one of the things that, if anything, within this business still happens with a more personal touch, and so COVID had forced us, and when I say us, companies across the direct selling landscape, to reevaluate how we can help the distributors out there to remotely recruit. We talked about the consumer experience, the shopping experience, and that kind of thing. But so that is one of the things, that we really didn't call out. With what COVID has done to economies across the globe, I think it's, we saw a big uptick on what 2020 did, at least in the US market and a lot of the global markets, the opportunity, the amount of sales. And I think that we're going to continue to see that because we don't know where this epidemic's going to go. Dan, your thoughts?
I think you nailed it good. I'm excited to get to the next one.
In respect to everybody's time, since you and I are already over the half an hour mark. So.
Yeah. So this one I think is very critical. It's been knocking on our doorstep. Really, engagement of the FTC. They're changing the way that we're sharing our products. And digital transformation maybe is a positive or negative side of that. And so, one of these things that really allows us to do is we can really lean on this concept on digital transformation to help us navigate that marketplace and navigate those challenges, where we're talking about digital tools that can provide, templated approach. Control the messaging a bit more. And at the same time, we still got to start to incorporate AI, and the great thing about it is that AI is here. It's not just a myth anymore, right? It is here. It's helping us drive smarter actions and smarter activities. And we can really kind of lean on those to help us really make sure that our field is doing the right thing. So, while maybe a bit of digital transformation got us into some issues, we can really lean on it to help us kind of through that process. Good examples is we have customers that utilize this from the standpoint of compliance training. Go through some compliance before you can even get your check. You have to do all of this compliance training. And as you go from one pin level to the next, you've got new training and we lock those things into place. So, I think that plays a lot into this concept of workflow, compliance, and digital transformation really plays a lot into that.
So I'm just going to add 2 points. One is we all received a letter recently that if it wasn't on your radar screen up to that point, it should be now. And I had a very candid conversation with a CEO friend in New Orleans, and they've been in the direct selling industry for decades. And he shared with me, because of the regime that's in the FTC right now, it is one of the scariest, if not the scariest times in his direct selling career. So we should just all be very aware, very hypersensitive, and embracing what we can do to deal with it as it evolves. All right.
I'm going to take over now. So this is one of my favorite topics. So I think that this is kind of lead us through the rest of this conversation today. So AI approach to the distributor experience from first to last interaction allows for a company to iterate at every level to ultimately provide the best experience that is needed to move that middle. And going back to a question earlier, when do companies usually see ROI? Well, actually right there, when we move the middle, we start to see tremendous amounts of ROI. And again, I'm going to iterate it again, is this ability that vendors can kind of come together to really help drive this. Like, I know Rallyware, as everyone knows, is a technology company, but we can't do that, from first interaction to the last interaction. So a lot of technology companies can come together really and champion this thought process.
All right. So we've got, and we will just move through these quickly to share some of these things with you. And as we said before, if you'd like a copy of these slides, we're more than happy to share those with you. And you're going to get the recording, so at least you could stop the recording, take a look at the slide at that moment too. But these are some of the things we've seen that Amway has put in place recently as they embraced that digital transformation. We talked about what Yanbal has been doing in South America, because they had been a market that leveraged in-person delivery. So what they had to do with a mobile application so that now that order is shipped directly to that customer out there. Mary Kay, here again, we're talking about how can we be consumer friendly when it comes to that shopping experience and the way that consumers want to shop, not the way that we want to push shopping onto them, right? But it's what they expect as they come to us, whether we're direct selling or whether we're not direct selling. And then Dan, going to some of the data-backed decisions that Betterware has been using down in Mexico around all of, as you said before, those business processes.
All right. So, Rich, you want to hit this? And I'll go next one.
Sure. So this is, nothing more than we think one of the major impacts. Gartner is putting it out there about what COVID-19 has done to businesses across the globe, right? And this is not direct selling specific, but it's, as you look at that question at the bottom, what other tools, what other resources are essential as you continue to evolve or transform digitally?
All right. So I'm going to touch into this, and then there's a great question that just came up. So digital transformation, news story, real AI, I think this is really where we're going to start to see the evolution of the technology in our industry. Actually, quite frankly, the industries in general, we're seeing this in big tech with some of our customers, and in the big tech industry actually is really everyone's time is so valuable. Everyone, and there's such a little bit amount of it anymore. And whether it's inside of direct selling or whether it's outside, is how do you maximize that time scrape you have to that, to those specific goals that you want to set. And again, this is where vendors come together and we start to build these systems. And this is just an example of the Rallyware system, where we're taking information and data from multiple different sources, using that, running that against years and years of data that we had, over 10 million users on the platform. You're talking about tremendous amount of data and insights that Rallyware has had, and was able to really build some great models and then run that through to what is important for that one single person in upstate Rochester, New York, who has 5 minutes today to do something. And again, that thought process really to drive what activities do we do next to make the most impact on our day-to-day, and of course at scale, cross countries, cross globes. So all right, so somebody asked this question. I think this is great, and Rich, I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Do you think that such a critical direct selling component as offline conventions that celebrate distributors can be digitally substituted within some digital experiences in a post-COVID world?
You want me to answer that? Because I've had experiences where they were very, very impressive what they could do digitally. And we know they're only going to get better, right? But I mean, as you arrived at the convention virtually, you actually saw the vice president of sales, you saw whoever was in charge of field development, you're walking in, you're shaking hands, you can visit the vendor. I've seen other experiences that were terrible. Zoom would have been better than those experiences. Can they rival what we have all experienced in the past? But think about it. I'm old, right? And you've been to those conferences, you've been to those conventions where you brought along somebody new on your team, and they're sort of into the business. They just started the business. When they feel that energy, when they see those people cross the stage, when they hear the loud music and the people who jump to their feet for a standing ovation, I don't know, I haven't seen it yet, where you can get that same feeling. Will we be forced into doing something similar remotely? Probably, but So there's my honest opinion that some of those things that, especially for somebody who's never been there before, I don't know if you can replicate that yet today digitally. Give me VR, give me all of that stuff in the future. You may very well get there.
Yeah, it's, I'll have to second you on this, Rich, is that, like we just experienced ourselves, going to the DSA last week and connecting with all of our, partners and customers. And, we walked away going, wow, that felt so great. And, I think that
family reunion, come on.
And I think that's the one thing that it's going to be really hard to actually have happen, is that just that connection and that feeling of saying, oh man, I enjoyed that conversation. I spent some good quality time with someone, but yeah, so I don't know if we're going to get there. Hopefully we can.
So in respect to people's time, Dan, we've already passed the 45-minute mark when we try to limit these. We've got some Rallyware research insights that are part of this deck on what we've seen and what we've been able to quantify, right? So it's nothing more than statistics we've seen and quantified. You'll be able to grab those if you want that deck from us. But Dan, any more questions that, as you're looking at those, that you think we need to address now, or we'll get back to those individuals in
I think we're good, Rich. I think for the
okay. All right. So from my perspective, and I know that the majority of this audience is from the direct selling world, but I think businesses of any kind, inside of or outside of direct selling, if we're going to evolve, and if we're not going to become extinct, we've got to go out there and win the hearts and minds of those consumers, and so that we can adapt and flourish in this digital age. And I think that's all our conversation back and forth between Dan and myself, and your wonderful questions were about today. Dan, I'll let you sort of close out for us then.
Well, no, I appreciate it, Rich. And so again, thank you everyone for joining. One of the whole thought process here really is, can we establish a mindset for digital transformation? And I open up the door to say, hey man, challenge your vendors. That's what we're out there for, is to solve these types of problems, and really challenge us and let the vendors kind of help you throughout these processes. You don't have to solve all of them yourself internally. So thank you again for everyone for joining. Rich, thanks so much for leading this, and thanks for all of those that dropped their questions in there. We'll answer those that we didn't get to. So
we started a conversation hopefully with you today. Couple things I'd like to ask. We will follow up to everyone and give you a copy of the recording. I would like to hear whether this format, instead of the more, Dan takes 3 slides, Rich takes 4 slides, that type of thing, which one you find most beneficial. And then let's continue this conversation, this process, so that we make this industry better as that technology continues to evolve and we can transform our companies digitally. Thanks again. We'll be in touch, but I hope everybody out there has a wonderful day.